The name echoed like a riddle whispered through the shadows of West Africa, a question painted in blood, sand, and silence. In the hushed hours before dawn, when the air still clung to the cries of yesterday's dead, Ibrahim stood at the edge of the capital, Ouagadougou, a man who once wore a soldier's uniform, now cloaked in the gravity of revolution. He was not the first to march with promises, but something in his eyes, something fierce, unbroken, told the people he might be the last. They had seen leaders come wrapped in liberation, only to unravel into tyrants. But this wasn't just another coup. This was a reckoning. Burkina Faso had bled too long. Children disappeared in the crossfire between insurgents and a government that wielded its power like a dull blade, too slow to protect, too swift to punish. The North cried for aid, the East buried its sons, and the streets whispered of corruption that seeped deeper than oil. And in the smoke of this chaos rose a lieutenant, young, unyielding, with scars he refused to speak of and truths he refused to ignore. Traoré wasn't backed by foreign hands or old money. He rose with the fury of the forgotten. He spoke to the masses not with promises, but with a demand: choose, obedience to decay or rebellion for salvation. And they chose. The palace fell in hours. The president fled. Ministers scrambled like rats from a sinking ship. Cameras rolled as Ibrahim stood in fatigues, eyes fixed on the flag fluttering above the chaos. From this day, he said, voice steady, Burkina Faso belongs to its people. No more silence. No more betrayal. The crowd roared, but somewhere in that storm of hope, an old woman wept, not from joy, but from memory. She had seen this before. The beginnings were always beautiful. At first, Traoré moved like a man possessed by justice. He purged the military of traitors, imprisoned embezzlers, redirected funds to the schools and hospitals that had long decayed. He walked the markets without guards, held the hands of grieving mothers, slept in barracks beside his men. Children were taught his name before they learned their own. And yet, those who opposed him vanished. Not all at once, and never loudly. A journalist who uncovered secrets about a mysterious council of guardians disappeared on her way home. A former general, once loyal to Traoré, was found hanged in his cell with no camera footage for proof. The whispers grew darker. Still, the people held faith. All revolutions are bloody, they told themselves. Justice requires fire. But fire consumes everything, even the innocent. Then came the twist. Months after seizing power, Ibrahim made a stunning declaration: he would not seek to remain president. He would install a people's assembly to govern, dismantle the centralized regime, and return to his unit. Power is not mine to keep, he said. It is yours to protect. The world gasped. Was this the man they had prayed for? A redeemer in the flesh? Western leaders, once skeptical, extended cautious hands. He was invited to summits, hailed in the media, seen as a new kind of African leader, fierce, principled, uncorrupted. But beneath the praise, a darker current flowed. The Council of Guardians, once dismissed as rumor, began issuing decrees. Laws appeared with no authors. Dissenters spoke of being surveilled, not just by drones but by neighbors who suddenly knew too much. Then came the night that shattered the illusion, a video leaked from an underground rebel cell. It showed a village burned, women crying, and a masked man accusing Traoré of crimes too terrible to speak aloud, executions without trial, land seized under false pretenses, child soldiers trained in hidden camps. The world recoiled. Traoré denied everything. Enemies of the people, he called them. Saboteurs. But the trust was broken. Protests erupted, and once again, the capital trembled. Ibrahim appeared on national television, eyes sunken, voice colder than before. You mistake mercy for weakness, he said. I gave you peace, and you spit on it. I will restore order, even if it breaks you. And just like that, the Redeemer bled into the rebel. The twist no one saw coming wasn't his fall, it was his rise after the truth. Instead of crumbling, his support hardened. The council's grip tightened. Drones patrolled the skies. Internet blackouts silenced the youth. He rewrote the anthem, changed the flag, declared a new national holiday, the Day of Purity. The world sanctioned him. He laughed. Then came the moment of bitter irony. The same journalist thought dead reappeared. Alive. Hidden for months in exile. She held documents, footage, testimonies from Traoré's inner circle. Proof of the camps. Proof of the executions. Proof that the Council of Guardians was not a council at all, but one man. Ibrahim himself. Every signature, every law, every act of silence, it had always been him. She was ready to reveal it. Ready to burn the empire with truth. She went live. The feed cut out. Her location was traced. Gunshots echoed through the static. The world screamed, "Justice!" But by then, it was too late. Traoré appeared again, this time in a military base, standing beside generals once thought loyal to the old regime. And he said just 5 words, "Now the war begins again." Was he rebel? Redeemer? Or something darker still? She never made it out alive, or so the world believed. The gunshots that ended her livestream sent a tremor through every screen, still flickering with her face, but what they didn't know, what even Traoré didn't know, was that the woman who exposed him had one final move prepared, a failsafe set to detonate if she ever stopped breathing for more than 10 minutes. Her name was Aissata Diop, and she wasn't just a journalist. She was once one of Traoré's most trusted intelligence officers, the very architect of the surveillance web now tightening around Burkina Faso. And the footage she leaked? It wasn't everything, it was bait. The real proof, the unredacted documents, the GPS logs, the drone footage, the Council of Guardians initiation rights, all of it, was uploaded to a secure node buried in the darknet waiting for the right access code to go public. A code only one person could deliver. Her sister. An unsuspecting schoolteacher in Bobo-Dioulasso who hadn't seen Aissata in over 2 years, but on the night of the livestream when the shots rang out she received a simple package slipped beneath her door. No return address, no note, just a USB and a letter that said, "If they kill me it's your turn to finish this." Meanwhile Traoré was already moving his pieces across the board. The capital was locked down, all outgoing communications severed, satellites scrambled, loyalist forces deployed to every media outlet, and still he couldn't sleep because somewhere in the deep blue of his nightmare he knew, he hadn't killed the truth, he'd only wounded it. In a secret bunker below the presidential compound he gathered his inner circle, but there were whispers even among them, glances exchanged, hands too close to concealed weapons. They feared him now, feared what he'd become. And then the twist hit, harder than anyone saw coming. A military convoy bound for the northern border was ambushed not by rebels, not by mercenaries, but by a faction of Traoré's own elite guard led by none other than Colonel Mabel, the man Traoré thought executed 6 months ago for treason. He wasn't dead. He was building an army in exile, trained in silence, hidden in shadows, fueled by defectors and those who had lost everything under Traoré's purification campaign. And now Mabel had something even more dangerous than firepower. He had the original files from Aissata's vault. He had her full confession on tape. He had footage of Traoré personally ordering the razing of villages under the guise of anti-terror raids. He had evidence that the insurgency Traoré claimed to be fighting had been funded by Traoré himself. To keep the country in fear. To keep himself in power. And now Mabel wasn't just coming for revenge, he was coming to stand trial. Publicly. On the international stage. To drag Ibrahim Traoré's secrets out under the light of the world. But there was one problem. Someone inside Mabel's ranks was leaking information, feeding it back to Traoré in real time. A traitor. The game had changed. And as the leaked files began to spread across encrypted channels, as Aissata's sister struggled to decrypt the code before they came for her, as Traoré launched a silent manhunt to find and kill Mabel before the trial date, something else surfaced. A birth certificate. Hidden in the vault. Proving that Traoré's real name wasn't Ibrahim. And he wasn't Burkinab. He was born in Libya during the fall of Gaddafi, raised in exile, trained by foreign operatives and placed inside Burkina Faso years ago as part of a long game. An international black op to destabilize the region. Traoré wasn't a patriot. He was a plant. And now that the truth threatened to unravel the entire intelligence infrastructure of West Africa, one question remained: who placed him there? Who's really pulling the strings? The world was on edge. The trial was set for 72 hours from now. Aissata's sister had disappeared. Traoré had declared martial law. And Mabel's convoy had just gone dark outside the border town of Dori. All transmissions lost. No one knows if he's alive. And then, just before midnight, On a hijacked emergency broadcast, Channel Tra appeared alone, eyes darker than ever, and said, "You want truth? Come find me. But be warned, it won't set you free." Then the screen cut to black. And a single word flickered on the screen. The night before the trial, the sky over Dori cracked open with a storm that felt biblical, lightning danced over sand-swept roads, and thunder shook the bones of a nation waiting to see its soul weighed in public. But the convoy never arrived. Colonel Mabel's forces vanished in a sudden, coordinated silence. No wreckage. No signal. No bodies. Just an eerie emptiness and a creeping sense that everything had been a setup. Inside the crumbling corridors of Ouagadougou's underground palace, Ibrahim Traoré sat alone, eyes fixed on a grainy photograph clutched in his hands, a woman and 2 children, faces blurred by time and fire. His wife. His sons. Lost during an ambush years ago, not by insurgents, not by rebels, but by foreign contractors paid to destabilize the region, sent to stir chaos and secure mineral contracts disguised as humanitarian aid. And that's when the final revelation hit: Mabel hadn't been the resistance. He was the original operative. A double agent placed to make Traoré look like the tyrant, to pull the strings behind the insurgency, to orchestrate the leaks, the fake files, the forged documents, the entire narrative. It had all been a lie. Assata's sister was never in danger, she was working with Mabel. The vault? Fabricated. The footage? Deepfakes pieced together from grainy war clips and re-edited broadcasts. Even the birth certificate proving Traoré was Libyan, it had been pulled from a dead spy decades ago and photoshopped to perfection. It was always about making the world believe that Ibrahim Traoré was the villain, so that no one would believe him when he uncovered the real plot, that global powers had turned Africa into a chessboard and he had flipped the board. But the world didn't want a redeemer, they wanted a monster. And now he was trapped in their story. So he made a choice. As foreign drones hovered above the capital, waiting for permission to strike, and media networks braced for a public execution broadcast live to millions, Traoré walked out alone onto the rooftop of the palace, unarmed, blooded but unbroken. He looked straight into the lens of the hovering drone and spoke. "You think you've won. You think you've rewritten me into your villain, your war criminal, your scapegoat. But the truth, the real truth, is that I did not rise to take power. I rose to protect people no one else would. I gave my life to stop the bleeding, to bring peace where the world sowed chaos. And if you still think I'm the enemy, pull the trigger." Silence. Then, without warning, the drones turned. Retreated. Mabel's compound was raided, not by rebels, but by international watchdogs responding to an anonymous tip traced to a satellite signal that had originated from deep inside Traoré's own intelligence mainframe. Files poured out within hours, real ones. Receipts, memos, communications, proof of foreign interference, economic sabotage, bribed generals, fake NGOs operating as data extraction hubs. The world shifted. The headlines changed. And the man they'd branded a tyrant was cleared. But the damage was done. Burkina Faso lay fractured in heart, the people torn between what they saw and what they were told to see. Traoré disappeared weeks later. No ceremony. No broadcast. No goodbye. Just a note left on the cracked marble of the National Hall, scrawled in ink that ran as though the writer had cried through every word. "If saving them cost me myself, it was still worth it. Let history call me what it will, I know the truth." And then, the final twist. Months after his disappearance, a school in the north received a shipment of textbooks, medicine, and farming tools, all labeled from an anonymous foundation. Inside one of the books, tucked between pages, was a photograph. Traoré, older now, bearded, smiling, standing with a group of children planting trees beneath the rising sun. On the back, scribbled in pencil, "Sometimes the Redeemer must wear the rebel's mask to keep the wolves at bay." And beneath that, a date, set 10 years in the future, with just one word: return.